Now 32 years old, Kyle Schwarber just continues to get better and better. As he approaches free agency this upcoming offseason, he's going to demand a heck of a lot more than the first time around when the Phillies signed him before the 2022 season. Now, we've talked about Schwarber's ability to hit with two strikes and against left-handed pitching as well, but what has made Kyle Schwarber a better hitter than ever before? Well, I think I found this one change at the plate that's made all of the difference. Let's talk about it next, right here on the PHLY Phillies podcast. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the PHLY Phillies podcast. Tyler Zulli with you here. And as we said, now 32 years old, Kyle Schwarber is on pace for one of his best seasons ever. Through his first 53 games, he's slashing .257, .398, .576, and has a .974 OPS. He has 18 home runs and 40 RBI on the season. He has 24 extra base hits in total. And everything seems to be trending in the right direction. His barrel rates, they're up. His average exit velocity and hard hit percentage are both within the top 4 percentile across all of Major League Baseball. And the funny thing is, he's actually producing less than his expected numbers would indicate. His expected batting average is nearly 30 points higher than the actual average, and his expected slug is almost 60 points higher than his actual slugging percentage, which means he's actually run into some unlucky outs over the last couple of weeks. The biggest contributing factor, I think, for Kyle Schwarber so far this year is the drop in K rate. This year, it's down to 22%. From last year, it was at 28.5. The year prior was above 29%. He's on pace by far for his lowest strikeout rate and strikeout total as a member of the Phillies. If he plays on average, which he has for the first 3 years, 155 games this year, he's on pace for just north of 150 strikeouts, which is 40 plus less than any season he's put together as a member of the Phillies. So what is the one change over the last couple of years that I think has made the most significant difference in Kyle Schwarber's entire plate approach? Well, maybe I was a little bit of a cheating way out. It's really two things, but I think they pair together really nicely. The one thing, the most important thing, is where Kyle Schwarber is standing in the box. First, let's take a look at where Kyle Schwarber was standing and kind of attacking the baseball all the way back in 2023. You could see he's about as far back in the trenches as you possibly can be. He stood about 26 inches into the box, and much like most players, as I said, he's about as far back as you're legally allowed to be, with his foot effectively on the back line of the box, which makes total sense, right? Gives the hitter the absolute most time that they can see to see the baseball, to watch its shape form, give it the longest chance of getting the bat through the zone. This is something that we talked about with Bryson Stott a few weeks ago. He's moved in on the plate and further back, which allows for the latest intercept point. Now, with Kyle Schwarber, the difference is, unlike Bryson Stott, he doesn't need that extra time because of his swing. See, Stott has one of the slowest bat speeds in all of baseball. Meanwhile, Kyle Schwarber consistently year in and year out is amongst the top 10 or so in terms of bat speed on average. And this season, he's at about 77 miles per hour, which is 5 miles an hour greater than what the average bat speed is across the entirety of the league. So instead, what Kyle Schwarber has done this season has decided to move up in the plate, which is not something I wouldn't recommend for most hitters. In fact, like 99.9% of hitters at any level, even across Major League Baseball, I would not recommend moving up in the box. But Kyle Schwarber's done just that. He's now about 21 inches in depth of the box, and you can see his interception rate, which is that green dot, is way further out. Just more on that in just a second. Kyle Schwarber, along with guys like Aaron Judge, Shohei Ohtani, a handful of others, they're the exception to the rule in terms of should you move back, should you move up. You should move back at the plate for most hitters, just because of the fact that you're going to get that depth and the additional split second, the millisecond difference to see the baseball. But you can see with Kyle Schwarber, he's moved up in the box almost 5 inches since the beginning of the 2023 season. And what has that done for, as I said, a guy with an average swing speed of 77 miles an hour, the guy with the fourth fastest swing speed in all of baseball? Well, it's allowed him to make his interception point further out in front of the plate. This is where, on average, Kyle Schwarber meets the baseball. In 2023, his intercept point was a little over 5 inches in front of the plate. This season, it's nearly 11 inches out in front of the plate. Again, this is not something that I would recommend, a tactic to most hitters, but it works for Kyle Schwarber. And why does it work for Kyle Schwarber? The reason that it does, I think, in part is because it impacts two things specifically. But most importantly, I think it allows him to be extremely successful, as we've talked about, against left-handed pitching, especially against left-handed breaking balls. Because he goes out in front and gets those pitches, he's just simply not allowing lefties breaking balls to turn over, to see their apex of their horizontal movement. If they have any vertical movement, it's not getting as far as into the plate, as deep into the plate. And it allows Kyle Schwarber to meet that baseball at a point that he's comfortable with, as opposed to the point that the pitcher wants to be comfortable with. And I think this in turn plays in his ability to hit with two strikes this year. Again, he's getting out in front of the baseball, limiting turnover by getting the bat head out as quickly as he does, and then meeting it at a point of contact that is comfortable for him. And not only that, but allows him to set up the at-bat the way that he wants to set up the at-bat. So Kyle Schwarber has done kind of something very simple and just moved up in the box. But it has changed his entire approach at the plate. It has allowed him over the last 2 years to be much stronger against lefties. It's allowed him to be much stronger with two strikes, and it's allowed him to see all of the pitches that a pitcher may throw and really not get beat by anything. He has quick enough hands to turn on the inside fastball or to turn on the fastball up in the zone. So that's not a problem. That's really never been a problem for Kyle Schwarber. But now that he's moved up in the box, he's allowing himself to get at a breaking ball or at a changeup or something off speed at his tempo, as opposed to the pitcher's tempo. And I think it's gone a long way to making Kyle Schwarber a complete hitter. We know that Kyle Schwarber doesn't chase. We know he has an excellent eye at the plate, but what he's able to do now is successfully ambush, and not just ambush for ambushing's sake. He's able to go and get the baseball at an intercept point that works best for him. Again, I would not recommend this for like 99.9% of baseball players on the planet. But with Kyle Schwarber, quick hands, quick to the zone, long through the zone, he has that prototypical left-handed swing that you want to see now more than ever. And I think for him, this works because it allows him to meet the baseball at a point that he is comfortable with. It's not the entirety of why Kyle Schwarber has been better over the last couple of years, but I think it's a big factor into the success of Kyle Schwarber over the last couple of seasons. And as I mentioned, free agency looms. $79 million is going to look like chump change to what Kyle Schwarber gets next. Hopefully it's with the Phillies. I think he and the Phillies both have mutual interest, but we'll see what happens as Kyle Schwarber continues to evolve as a better hitter than he's ever been into his age 32 season.